Have we got Noel here? Noel, are you there?
Yes, he's there.
Okay. Right, we're all sitting comfortably. Let us begin. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this video conferencing meeting of the Development Committee. And also welcome to members of the public who join us via video link and to those who have registered to speak. With me today are the officers who will present the reports and who offer technical advice. May I introduce our development manager? Sarah, if you'd like to.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Sarah Ashurst, the development manager here at North Norfolk District Council.
Sarah will be presenting our reports. We also have our legal advisor.
Morning, everybody. My name's Noel Doran. I'm a solicitor acting as legal advisor to the Development Committee this morning.
And we have the head of planning.
Good morning, all. Philip Bryson here.
We also have two officers from Democratic Services with us who will minute time speakers and manage the technical side of this meeting. They are Linda Yaram and Emma Denny. Members, voting will take place as if this is a recorded vote. So I will call out your name and please answer for, against, or abstain. If you wish to leave the meeting for a short time, please try to exit at the end of each application. I now ask Officer Rowson to explain the procedure for today.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate we're in very difficult times, and I welcome everybody to this meeting. It's great that we're able to continue business, and I'm pleased that we have everyone here, including members of the public and interested parties. As head of planning, I'm here to explain the purpose of the meeting today. This has been revised since our last meeting. The local authorities and police and crime panels, brackets coronavirus, brackets flexibility, local authority, police and crime panel meetings for England and Wales 2020 regulation 392 is now in place. It is lawful to determine planning applications as a remote meeting under these provisions. The regulations received royal assent and came into force on the 4th of April, almost immediately after our last meeting, by the way, Chairman. These measures are in place to facilitate business continuity by enabling local government to use innovative measures to deliver remote decision making. Today, members, you will be making the decisions. You'll be voting on those remotely and your decisions will be legal and binding for the Council. Our Democratic Services team have worked to ensure that all measures used today will be compliant with the new regulations and the Council's constitution. Just to run through the protocol of process today for you quickly. I should remember members today that the meeting will be live streamed to the public through the Council's YouTube channel, and we will be live throughout the duration of the meeting. Ironically, my video keeps dipping in and out. Bear with me, Chairman. We will be legally open to the public within the regulations. Officers will make their presentations in terms of the submission that has been given to you already, members, and those presentations will be taken as read. They have been made publicly available. The presenting officer will only give a short introduction referring to the presentation that has been circulated already. We will refer to the report and officer recommendation. Officers will answer questions from members at this stage. No, this is not a question and answer. This is a question and answer session and not the debate of the application. The meeting will then move into an open session to facilitate registered speakers to address the committee. The speakers will each be allotted 3 minutes in accordance with established procedures and will make their address via a live link controlled by the Democratic Services Manager. The speaking provisions will otherwise follow the Council's procedures. Once all speakers have been heard, then the meeting will enter closed session once more. Any ward member attending the committee will be offered the opportunity to speak first on the application. Officers may then answer any questions at the chairman's discretion. The members of the Development Committee will then enter into debate. Further questions and clarification can be given by officers under the chairman's discretion. Once debate has been completed, then the meeting will move to making a decision in accordance with the process laid down in the Constitution. We will be voting, as the chairman said today, via roll call. So the chairman will call your name as members of the Development Committee, and you will be asked to vote for or against the recommendation or the motion that is in place at that time. I shall assume that if no questions are raised with me now, that members are clear on the current provisions and process. Chairman, are there any questions? I shall assume that we are complete and members are clear.
I think we're okay here. Thank you, Officer Ryerson. Officer Doran, have you anything further to add?
Nothing to that, no, thanks.
Thank you. Then we'll move to the agenda and the items of business. Firstly, to receive the apologies for absence, and if there are any.
All members are present, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. But I'd ask members of the committee to please approve as a correct record minutes of the meeting of the committee held on the 2nd of April, which you should have received, and to confirm as a correct record the minutes of the meeting held on the 5th of March, which were considered at the previous meeting. Could you just hold your hand up if you approve, please, the minutes? Thank you. I think that's unanimous, Linda. Items of business. Are there any items of business? I don't.
No urgent items of business. Thank you.
No, thank you. No objections received, which head of planning authorised. No. Order of the business as printed. And declarations of interest. Have any? Right. Yes.
Yes, on the restaurant application in East Runton. It's my family's restaurant.
Thank you. Anybody else? Right. And then we pass to the reports, the planning applications. First, we have Hindolveston, PO 191751, and this is presented by Officer Ashurst.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Just going to mute myself. Can't hear you, Sarah.
My apologies for that. My Zoom just crashed, unfortunately. I hope I'm back in the room.
You are.
All good now, Sarah.
Okay, thank you. Apologies again. Good morning, members. I'll be presenting item 7 on your agenda, application PO 191751, which seeks permission for the erection of 2 numbered dwellings with access. This is an outline application with all matters reserved except access at land off the street in Hindolveston. The report can be found on pages 1 to 4 of your agenda papers and the slides on pages 1 to 14 of your handout. There are no updates to the report. The decision required is one of principle and access alone. In regard to principle, the development is in the designated countryside area. New market dwellings are excluded from the list of acceptable development in the countryside under policy SS2, and therefore the principle of development is contrary to policies SS1 and SS2 of the core strategy. Members are required to determine applications in accordance with the development plan, in this case the adopted core strategy, unless there are material considerations which are considered to weigh in favour of approval of the application. It is officers' consideration that there are none, and as such the application is recommended for refusal. In addition, the form of surrounding development is very regular, linear, semi-detached dwellings immediately to the west, and in the wider area there are detached dwellings in spacious plots. It is not considered that the form and layout of the proposed development reflects this, and so is not considered to be in keeping with the character of the area. Members will note the local highway authority has raised no concerns in regard to the access. For the reasons expressed above, the recommendation is one of refusal as set out on page 4 of your agenda. Thank you, Chair.
Chairman, can I ask, do members have any questions for the presenting officer?
Councillor Cushing, you have a question for Officer Ashurst?
Yes, I do, Madam Chairman. Little bit confused. When I look at page 3 on the reference document, you mentioned that the plan of the houses is not in line with those on either side. When I look at the plan itself, there's a block of housing to the left. So it doesn't look as though it's out of place at all with that development, which is in Broughton Close. And also I note there are houses to the right as well. So I don't really understand that point. It looks like if it was slotted in there, I can't see why that would be of any great issue.
Officer, yes.
Thank you, Madam. The houses on Broughton Close are generally semi-detached pairs of dwellings. They're very regular in their form and design. So if you were to continue that form and design, I would have expected potentially to see again semi-detached dwellings on this plot. But just bear in mind that the principle of this is contrary to the development plan, and the form and layout is a secondary reason for refusal.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Heinrich, you wish to speak?
Thank you, Chairman. Some of the response is what I was hoping for in Councillor Cushing's question. It's just following up on those houses in Broughton Close. They look as if they were not built that long ago. Why were they not contrary to SS1 and SS2? Thank you.
Yes.
I'm afraid I don't. Thank you. I don't have the details of that application in front of me. They may well have been considered as a rural exception scheme for affordable housing, but I cannot confirm that at this time.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Heinrich?
Yes, thank you.
Councillor Fitch-Tillett.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. Good morning.
Good morning.
I've had a look round Hindle Weston on Google Maps to see what facilities there are in the village. And as far as I can see, there is a church and absolutely nothing else. So therefore, any additional development within this particular community would be totally contrary to any of our planning policies. It's completely unsustainable. And really, I think we should go with the officer's recommendation. I'm quite happy to propose that, Madam Chairman.
Okay, I'll note that proposal from Councillor Fitch-Tillett.
Through you, Chairman, can I ask the presenting officer to clarify what we know of facilities for the community and services in Hindle Weston? Sarah?
Yes, of course. Hindle Weston, as I understand it, has only a village hall and a church. There's no school, there's no shop, there's no pub, there are no other services. I think occupants of these dwellings would be entirely reliant on the private car to access general services and employment, most likely in Fakenham. There are very limited bus services in Hindle Weston. I believe there's one route which runs on a Thursday and an alternative route which runs on a Monday. So as I say, they would be entirely reliant on use of the private car to access employment, education, recreation and day-to-day services.
Thank you. Officer Doran.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could I just remind members we're in question and answer at the moment. We haven't entered the debate. We need to hear from public speakers and the ward member if they wish to speak before entering the debate on the application.
Yes, I must admit we seem to be straying from our normal procedure. I'll pass to, again, I understand there are no town or parish speakers. Is this correct? Officer Yarn, is this correct? Yes, okay. Are there any objecting speakers? I haven't any registered. No. Speaker, Mr. Hardy, are you with us? Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. You have 3 minutes, Mr. Hardy. You will be timed by one of our democratic services. So when you are told to stop speaking, if you could please just comply with that. Right, start when you wish.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm Phil Hardy of Parker Planning Services, the agent for the applicant. On the 13th of December, I telephoned the planning officer, Chris Neal, to ask how he was minded to determine the application, as no objections had been received, and he advised me that he was minded to approve the application. I received an email from your planning team leader, Natalie Levitt, on the 31st of January, advising that additional approval would be granted. Philip Rowson was copied into that email. You can imagine my astonishment and the adverse impact on the well-being of the applicant when we found out a week ago it was going to be recommended for refusal. The reason given was that there were recent appeal decisions on the Planning Inspectorate's website and on the list attached to these minutes. We found only one relevant appeal decision, and that was for a far more isolated site which had other issues. There are no objections to consultancies on this application. That aside, 617 people live in Hindle Weston. There are houses all the way along the street, east and west of the site, and it's a natural infill. There is identical development, as has already been pointed out, with the same built form to the site's immediate west, as seen in the location plan and presentation. How can this therefore be judged as out of character of the surrounding built form, or as encroachment into the countryside when houses already exist immediately east and west of the site, all the way along the street? Are those houses encroaching on the countryside too? No, because it's a residential settlement and not countryside. National planning policy changed in February 2019, which makes rural developments more acceptable in planning terms. It states that development in one area should be looked upon favourably when it supports services and facilities in nearby areas. Bristol and Melton Constable is less than 3 miles from the site. It's designated as a joint service village. Car journeys of 3 to 4 miles are supported in rural areas in line with paragraph 103 of the new NPPF, as it recognises the difference between rural and urban areas. Finally, small sites of under half a hectare are also supported in national planning policy in paragraph 68 for the support of gifted small and medium-sized developers, such as the applicant application. We have appeal decisions that demonstrate that even when a council has a 5-year housing land supply, the quick build-out rate of these small sites has outweighed 5-year land supply consideration. Appendices 2 and 3 of the planning statement on your website show this. Some of you will remember me from February 2019 when I spoke at committee on a scheme in Crunch. 2 was designated as countryside despite having over 900 people living there, and the officers agreed that the local plan policies were then out of date. They recommended approval, and the committee agreed with that recommendation. 2 officers have also agreed that in Hindle Weston be approved. Just to summarise, the site is not open countryside, it's a residential settlement with services and facilities close by in Bristol and Melton Constable. It is under half a hectare, and national planning policy supports the quick build-out rate of these sites, and this overrides 5-year housing land supply considerations. Under the circumstances and taking national planning policy into account, I hope the committee will be minded to approve the application. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hardy, for your presentation. Officer Rowson, you wish to make some a reply or clarification?
Chairman, I have responded directly to Parker Planning on the matter of officers indicating that positive consideration may be given. I've replied to the consultancy on this matter. I can confirm that, in fact, no recommendation is made on a planning application until the final report is given to the officers who are signing that case off, and the quality assurance process at this council requires that a senior officer signs off those decisions. In this case, the view that was given by that senior officer when considering a positive outcome here was as you see today in this committee report, and you can see that the recommendation is for refusal. It is very rare that this occurs, I have to say, Chairman, but it is lawful for the council to perform in this way and to review officers' considerations and revise their thoughts and recommendations accordingly. Thank you, Chairman.
Oh, dear.
Pauline,
You're on
Pauline.
mute.
Good heavens. Thank you. We now ask the local member, Councillor Fitzpatrick, to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The reason I referred this application for determination by the Development Committee is not quite as stated on the committee report. The reason is that I received not one but two officer recommendations. I received officer recommendation for approval under delegated authority, and I accepted that. However, after doing so, I learned that the officer making recommendation had left the authority, and the current case officer got in touch with me to state that the recommendation was now for refusal. Given that I accepted an approval, I was not really in a position to accept, given that I'd accepted an approval, I was not really in a position to accept a refusal of the same application with no changes to the application between those two recommendations. So between a rock and a hard place, the only course open for me is to refer this application to the Development Committee for determination. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Fitzpatrick. I'm now open the discussion to members. If you could just raise your hand. If I don't see you, then either one of the Democratic Services people will point you out. First of all, I have Mr. Councillor Mancini Boyle. Would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I looked through this last night, and I accept the councillor's views on the original approval and now refusal. One of the things that I would like Sarah to clarify for me, two things really, is the EN4 is the section on parking and overdevelopment, and also opposite this application, there seems to me like a building line, because there's quite a large property opposite. I would just like clarification on why it's been refused on that policy EN4.
Officer Ashurst.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I kind of answered this earlier in response to Councillor Cushing's queries. As I said, in terms of the design, it's about the form and layout of the proposed development, which is considered unacceptable. It doesn't maintain the building line of the houses to the west. And we don't feel that form and layout is appropriate. It's kind of backland development, if you like, and we consider it unacceptable. In terms of parking and the access, I'm not aware that there are any issues raised by the Highway Authority, so that doesn't form a reason for refusal. Just worthy of note for members, I have since looked it up on the system. I can confirm that the houses on Broughton Close were a rural exception scheme for affordable housing, which are entirely policy compliant, hence why they were approved. And just to confirm, there was also a previous application back in 2007 for 3 dwellings on this site, which was refused as well. So just some context there for members.
Thank you, Officer Ashurst. Anybody else wish to speak? Yes, Councillor Lloyd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It seems to me that the overriding principle here is that buildings, dwellings in the countryside are specifically precluded. So I'm happy to go with the officer's recommendation and second this refusal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lloyd. I've noted you as seconder. Anybody else wish to speak on this application? Councillor Heinrich and then Councillor Cushing. Councillor Heinrich first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to thank Officer Ashurst for the explanation on that adjacent site. I think that really puts into context. If that was a rural exception site, then excellent. This is not as such, and taking account of the arguments for supporting SS1, SS2 and EN4, I have to support the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cushing.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I guess the only thing I struggle with here is the definition of what is countryside, because if I look at the plan on page number 2, it's a row of houses with a little bit of field in between. To me, that's not what I guess call countryside in the sense of vast rolling open fields. I'm just concerned on the basis of the grounds we're given here, a lot of the houses that are already in that village we wouldn't have approved anyway, given that we were happy to approve a block of houses, albeit under an exception process to the left. I do struggle, I do have some sympathy with the planning officer from whichever company it was who presented the case for this.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
observation, that was all anyway.
Thank you. You wish to reply, Officer Ashurst?
Only to say that the countryside obviously will have small villages within it. Hindolveston is not noted as one of obviously our major towns or a kind of service village at all. So therefore it falls in the designated countryside. It's also just worth noting by members that in the emerging local plan, which does potentially allow for some infill and rounding off development in the designated growth villages, Hindolveston remains not included in that list. It's still not considered a sustainable location in that future plan, and therefore it will still remain in designated countryside where market dwellings are considered unacceptable.
Thank you. I note you, Councillor Fitch-Tillett, but Councillor Pearce, did you wish to say anything, or were you just waving? Will you move? No. Can you unmute?
Sorry.
That's right. No, you're unmuted now. I can hear
sorry
you.
about that. Good morning, everyone. I think the from line 3, however, the site is located on page 4 on the countryside where new market developments are precluded. SS1, SS2 sums it up entirely, and that draws me to the conclusion. I find looking at that and the application that I must support the officer's recommendation.
Right, thank you. And yes, Councillor Fitch-Tillett.
Yes, first of all, I want to apologise for rather skipping through the agenda a little bit early. Just for the record, in case it is needed legally, I will repeat the fact that I support the officer's recommendation. I have proposed that it is refused. And I just wanted to point out that it wasn't particularly clear in the actual application wording that Hindolveston is totally unsustainable. And I did forget the village hall, I apologise that, but it is a village hall and a church and everything will rely on the car, which of course we are not happy with at all. So I will propose it in the right point of the agenda again.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, we did rather skip ahead, but there we are. Yes, Councillor Brown, if you wish to speak.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good morning, everyone. I'd just like to expand on Officer Ashurst's point that in the emerging local plan, Hindolveston is not included as either a service village or a small growth village. The emerging plan will take into account the revisions to the NPPF, to which the representative of the applicant referred, and therefore the recommendation is entirely consistent with planning policy and I will support the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, before we move to the vote, is there anyone else who wishes to speak?
Chairman, could I just clarify the position of the emerging plan and the adopted?
Yes, of course.
Members, it is important to say when we make this decision that we will be relying on the existing adopted plan. We are making decisions currently with that plan having full weight. I appreciate the points that were made about the emerging plan earlier in this debate. The emerging plan will not carry any significant weight at this moment in time. However, the evidence base that that plan is prepared from, including its sustainability analysis, could be used to support any future appeal that may be made on this site. And clearly the direction that this council is taking is currently to move towards identified smaller villages once that plan is adopted. However, to be clear, your decision today must be made on the basis of the existing adopted plan and policies SS1 and SS2 primarily. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Officer Rowson. Yes, I'm pleased that you did clarify that. There is this dichotomy between the existing plan and the forthcoming plan. We have to realise that the forthcoming plan is exactly that, and we have to vote on the existing plan. So now we go to the recommendation. Now I'm going to spell this out. Is to delegate authority to the head of planning to refuse for the reasons given on page 4. Now I'm going to read out your names, and if you could please say for, which will be for the officer's recommendation for refusal, against, which will be against the officer's recommendation, or abstain. Are we ready?
Chairman, sorry, before we go into this vote, I should say I know of no reason today why members cannot vote directly to make a decision on this application today. I would be content for members in this vote to effectively determine the application. I can see no reason why you need to delegate authority to me, and I would be perfectly content for the recommendation be for you to determine the application under this motion.
Yes, thank you. I think you did spell that out in your introduction. Right, please, we'll pass the vote. My name is first, Mrs. Grove Jones. I am voting for the officer's recommendation. Mr. Heinrich.
For.
Councillor Brown.
For.
Councillor Cushing.
For.
Councillor Fisher.
More.
Sorry, what did you say? For.
More.
Councillor Fitch-Tillett.
For.
Councillor Fredericks.
For.
Councillor Kershaw.
For.
Councillor Lloyd.
For.
Councillor Mancini-Boyle. Councillor Mancini-Boyle.
For.
Councillor Pearce. Can you unmute yourself, please, Councillor Pearce? No, unmute yourself. That's it. No.
For.
Councillor Stockton.
For.
Councillor Varley.
For.
And Councillor Yasmi.
For.
Right, thank you. Officer Yaren, can you give me the results of the vote?
Yes, Madam Chairman, that was unanimous.
Thank you. So it's a unanimous vote in favour of the officer's recommendation for refusal. Thank you, Mr. Hardy, for attending.
Thank you very much. Stay safe, everyone. Thank
And
you.
you. And you. Are we ready to continue, Emma?
Yes, we are.
Right, okay. We now pass to our second presentation, again given by Officer Ashurst. This is on Runton, which is on page 8 of your agenda, PF/20/0180. If you'd like to start.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. Yes, I'll be presenting item 8 on your agenda, which is application PF/20/0180, which seeks the change of use from a restaurant and 2 residential units to 7 holiday lets and on-site caretakers accommodation at Constantia Cottage Restaurant, High Street, East Runton. The report can be found on pages 5 to 9 of your agenda and the slides on pages 15 to 33 of your handout. There are no updates to the report. The application has been referred to Development Committee purely because it is made by a family member of an elected member, being Councillor Yassini. The proposals are policy compliant and the recommendation is for approval, subject to conditions as set out on page 9 of your papers. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Yassini, are you going to leave us now? Officer Denny, are you going to?
Looks as though he already has left the meeting.
No, he's
Chairman.
still here on my. No, he's still here.
Let me just have a look.
He's muted.
I'm still here.
Do you need
to leave the meeting, please?
Sorry.
Sorry, Pauline, it was Sarah saying that Andreas should leave the meeting now, please.
Yes,
Right.
that's what we've just said.
Okay, when do I know when to come back?
Just, Councillor Yassini, if you just then ask to rejoin the meeting, I will let you back in. I will.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, if you check your, are you able to check your email? He's gone, okay.
Has he disappeared now? Right, so are there any town or parish representatives for this one, Officer Denny?
No, we have no public speakers for this item at all, Madam Chair.
Right, okay, so we go straight to the local member, who is Councillor Butakova.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm sorry that I don't have a photo of me up this morning, but if I go to video, my system falls over, members, that's why. Just to say that the Constantia Cottage has been a very key part of the local community for a long time. People are very sad to see it go, but the local community does understand this is a perfectly acceptable use of this building, as the officers have said, and to actually have some more tourist accommodation in the village will be of great benefit. The location is very, very close to the beach, so it's a fantastic location for some new holiday accommodation. Therefore, I would like to support the officers in their recommendation, but appreciate I don't have a vote on the committee today. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Butakova. Very quickly, we pass to the members who would like to speak on this. Councillor Fitch-Tillett.
I didn't actually want to speak on that, but I just saw a note come up that Linda Yarham, who is minuting, I believe, is unable to see or hear us. Can we just have a look at that?
Oh. Is this so, Emma? What's happened? Is there anybody out there in outer space? Philip, what's happened? Have we lost Linda and Emma?
Apologies, Chairman. Yes, Linda couldn't hear members, so I was just sorting out her sound, but hopefully we're resolving that now. So I am back.
People are coming back eventually.
Oh dear, dear.
Everything just went.
Well, you know, this is the wonders of modern technology. You know how I feel about it. Give me paper and pen. Right, so now we go to the, let's go back to the agenda. Members, does anybody wish to speak on this application? Yes, Councillor Lloyd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can't see any reasons at all not to go with the officer recommendation on this. And I'd just like to say, having used the restaurant a number of times, it is sad that it's going. It's a great little place, but we move on. And yeah, I'm happy to support the officer's recommendation to approve this. Thank
So
you.
are you proposing, Councillor Lloyd?
Unless anybody else wants to, I'm happy to, yeah.
Right, okay. Councillor Fitch-Tillett.
Yeah, I do want to speak on it now. I like Councillor Lloyd has said, it's sad to see this very, very popular venue go, but nevertheless, if things move on, I see no reason at all to turn it down. And it's good that it's going to be kept for tourist accommodation. So I'm happy to second the proposal to approve, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Fredericks, did you wave your hand at me, or were you just, no, you didn't. Right. Anybody else wish to speak on this? No?
Chairman, just to say, I have been messaging Noel via the chat service. I would be content that despite losing Linda's audio for a short time, that both Emma, Noel, myself and Sarah were in the meeting, and this meeting will be recorded. So I don't see any legal reason why we can't proceed to vote on the matter. Thank you.
No, thank you. You content with this, Noel?
That's entirely acceptable to me, yes.
Yes, okay. I think we have to accept at this early stage of this is only the second video conferencing we've done with Development Committee, that the gremlins will creep in every now and again, and hopefully, if we have to continue with these with this form of presentation, that we will become slicker and what can I say? I'm not going to say more professional, but I think we're professional anyway. So are you prepared now to go to the vote? All of you? Just nod if you are. Right, okay. So the recommendation, as on page, hang around half an hour whilst I find it.
9.
Page 9, thank you, is for approval subject to the conditions which are listed below, and which are any others that are considered necessary by head of planning. So we're going to the vote. So the vote is for to recommend approval for the application. So the officer's recommendation is for approval. So again, I call your names out if you can say for, against, or abstain. So I'm number 1, Mrs. P. Grove Jones, for the officer's application, officer's recommendation. Councillor Heinrich.
For, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
For, Madam Chairman.
Councillor Cushing.
For, Madam Chairman.
Councillor Fisher.
For, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Fitch-Tillett.
For, Madam Chairman.
Councillor Fredericks.
For, Madam Chairman.
Councillor Kershaw.
For, Madam Chairman.
Councillor Lloyd.
For, Madam Chairman.
Councillor Mancini Boyle.
For, Madam Chair.
Councillor Pearce.
For, Madam Chairman.
Councillor Stockton.
For, Madam Chairman.
Councillor Varley.
For, Madam Chairman.
And right, and I think we'll have an abstention from Councillor Yassimi. Apologies, I forgot to mention that this has been proposed for approval by Councillor Lloyd and seconded by Councillor Fitch-Tillett. Apologies for that. So, Officer Yaram, have we the results of the vote?
Yes, we have. Everybody voted in favour.
Except for
Andreas.
Yes, okay. So that is a pass and approval for this recommendation. Sadly, I think, because I think we shall miss this very popular family restaurant. but we understand the circumstances under which they've asked for this change. Thank you. Well, that concludes the applications, and we now pass to the hang around another 6 hours appeals section.
Chairman, we need to cover the site visits as well.
Sorry?
Site visits, Chairman, we need to note that there'll be no site visits.
Yeah, yes, no site visits. Yeah.
Item 9, thank you.
Yes, it is actually. It's a whole page to itself, and it says no site visits. It's extraordinary. Right, we go to the appeals section now. Officer Ashurst, if you'd like to take us through this.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So this is agenda item 10 in members' papers, page 13. You will note under section A the new appeals received here. So we're currently awaiting a start date for those applications. Section B refers to inquiries and hearings. We have one in High Kelling in regard to an enforcement notice served. That's on the Holt Woodland Archery site in High Kelling. Under section C, these are our written representation appeals, which are currently going through the process, but where we are awaiting a decision. And then at the bottom of page 14 and top of page 15 are our appeal decisions. So as I alluded to last committee, we've had the decision for Breck Lodge in Aylmerton. That application sought the demolition of an existing dwelling and erection of a replacement dwelling. That appeal has been dismissed. It's a very good appeal decision, so I will try and get that decision appended to next month's agenda for you. It's well worthy of a read. And also at top of page 15, again, another appeal which has been dismissed in Blakeney. Section E relates to court cases, and there's no change since the previous meeting. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Officer Rouse, do you have anything to speak or to say on these appeals at all?
Just very briefly on the inquiries and hearings process, I can confirm that the matter at High Kelling, the archery and the air rifle range, subject to 2 enforcement notices, has now moved to a hearing. It will not be a public inquiry. We will be looking at the hearing commencing in October. The concern that we have as officers is that the local community can fulfill a full role within the hearing process. And at this moment in time, I report to you, Chairman and members, that the Planning Inspectorate has no current serviceable proposal to enable remote appeals for hearing or inquiries. As soon as we hear from the Planning Inspectorate, Chairman, on the matter of any remote provisions, obviously we will update. But for that particular case, it is important that we have the public in attendance and that they're able to commit to being able to fully engage in that process. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. We have Councillor Yassimi back again. Can we give him the result of our vote, please?
I can hear you. Am I meant to be here?
Yes, you're very welcome back again.
Oh.
Who's going to give the result of the vote? Do you want me to, or is it? I think it should be from one of the officers.
Chairman, I can confirm. Andreas, you were approved subject to the conditions in the recommendation. Everyone's sad to see your restaurant close, but we fully understand why that is, and we wish you and your family good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, I think that we've come to the conclusion. That must be one of the quickest development committees we've had. So thank you all very much. And I'll see some of you on Saturday, and the members of the public, thank you for attending. I hope it was entertaining. Well, not entertaining, instructive, I think we could say, instructive. And goodbye.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members.
Thank you.